Welcome back, everybody, to the WMMA Today podcast. I am your host, Drake Riggs, and normally joined by Steve, who is out today. I was out, we were both out last week, and I was out the week before, so it's been a while since I've seen everybody. How are you doing? How was the time with Serena Southpaw? Was she a better host than I was? I'm sure she was. She's phenomenal. I did check it out a little bit, so it looked like a good old fun time. Happy to be back, though. Happy to be home. It has been quite a crazy couple weeks of traveling. My body clock is all over the place. Had to take a quick little nap before the show, but we're feeling good. We're feeling energized. Happy to be here and talk and catch up on everything. Uh, it's been it's been crazy, right? A lot of things going on. We finally got the highly anticipated rematch that we had been waiting for so long in the strawweight division. Plenty of other things going on. So yeah, you guys, good old lineup here. Just recapping that fight, actually, that was really the only one, and what a singular fight to have over the past weekend. And then, of course, we have two events coming up this week with UFC Vegas 42 and Bellator down in Florida with what is it, four fights on that card, and then there are three on the UFC, so seven fights total to look forward to this weekend. Plenty of news and mailbag, fan to punch breakdowns, all that stuff. We'll get it to work today. I know Steve had issues with it when he was with Serena, so we will try to avoid that this time. And I apologize as always for my rather potatoy shit connection here. It always makes me feel even worse. If there was one thing to make me feel bad about being back home, it's that. So I apologize. I still need to improve it, but that is a work in progress. Either way, you guys, if you're new here, tuning in for the first time, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Really helps us out. We are on Spotify and Anchor and all the audio places now. So if you aren't able to watch live, you can listen back in the car ride to work the next day, whatever it may be. We are here on, should have mentioned this earlier. We're here on Tuesday today because I was flying home last night at the time we normally do the show. So had a little bit of extra time in New York than I normally do. And yeah, I see everybody coming in now. And I want to say right off the bat, you guys, the last time I saw you all, everybody was rather negative, and it was really bumming me out. And I was going to kind of put my foot down and tell you guys, knock that shit off, because it was really starting to not bother me a little bit, but I didn't like to see that for 2 or 3 weeks in a row. So hopefully we're feeling better now. Energy's picked up after one of the greatest cards of all time in UFC 268. I know maybe it was kind of the fights that were bumming you guys out, but I was not liking that. So I hope we're all doing better today. As Jimmy has arrived, he says, "Hey, he's excited for the show." Rue says, "Serena was great, but we couldn't be could or couldn't be disrespectful to certain fighters since he was a guest." And that's exactly what I'm talking about, Rue. I want to see less of that, please, going forward, you guys. If you're gonna be disrespectful to the fighters like aggressively, I mean, we don't really show that on the screen or acknowledge it anyways, but I would prefer to lessen that, because you guys got to think, not for Steve as much, but for me, I do talk to a lot of these people if I can. And I don't know, I just prefer positive outlooks in general. So I do not want this to become a toxic chat whatsoever. We've done such a great job over the course of this show. Please, let's keep it that way. This is the only warning I'm going to give. And that goes for you mods too. Please shape up a little bit. um, but yeah, let's start off on a good foot. Joseph is here, says, "Drake, can you tell what the update on Virna versus Tate? Because that card lost 2 fights." That fight is fine, as far as I know, Joseph. Nothing with that one. Rain, good to see you as well, buddy, as well as James. Says he has a lot of questions about Weili when we get to her. All right, save them, buddy. Ghost, good to see you, my man. I feel like it's been forever. It's been a long while for the show here. Jimmy says this card makes up for the offseason that we had. Lovely card. There we go. That's what I like to see. Lovely card. Yes, he says card. Either one. But all right, you guys, before we get into UFC 268, since I have missed 2 weeks of hanging out with you guys and the show in general, I wanted to do a quick little catch up on everything that happened in that meantime that I didn't get to talk about. So I just want to run down my quick thoughts for you guys on some of the things that happened. So let's start off with Ryzen 31, Kana Asakura getting upset by Saori Oshima. My goodness, you guys, it happened. We knew it was possible, but it was just too hard of a thing to predict with what we had seen so far. But my goodness, Saori went in there, looked like she had been in there, plenty times before. Like it wasn't her debut. Showed why she is a double champ in 2 different divisions, and fought the same as she always does, just nonstop action, whether she's on her back or on top. Doesn't matter. She is go, go, go. And my goodness, she's so fun to watch and has proved that she is right now a top 3 atom weight in the world. She jumps right in there. She goes from about 10, I think I had her at, to 2 because Ham doesn't fight at 105 anymore, 108, 105 range. So in my books, Saori is the number 2 atom weight in the world right now in the rankings. She jumps right up there past Kana and clearly the number 1 contender for Ayaka Hamasaki. But shameless plug, if you did check out the chat that I had with her on the recent return anniversary show of Broad Horizon, she sounds like she's a little bit willing to take it slow and admits that Hamasaki beats her up a lot when they do train together. So she seems to kind of understand where she is, but I would love to see that fight at some point before Ayaka hangs him up, whenever that is. She doesn't seem close to slowing down just yet from all indications, but my goodness, we have some fresh blood there, and it's very exciting to see. Saori Oshima is for real. She proved it, and she right now, I think, is clearly the breakthrough fighter of the year and has a strong case for female fighter of the year. 4 wins in a row. Who knows if she'll get a 5th one before the end of 2021. Very impressive stuff. And definitely go check out Broad Horizon after this show if you haven't yet. I know Ghost has. Appreciate him. He asked a question for it. So been hearing from Ghost in the meantime. And then there was also Deep Impact 104 where Seike Izawa got the job done against Siwoo Park. My goodness, the other prospect, right? These are 2 of the absolute greatest in the sport. Seike, you know how high that I am on her, as well as Oshima, but she continues to do her thing and battle through some adversity. Really, her eye was in danger there of maybe closing completely. Couldn't quite tell if it even did, but worrisome of the doctor stopping it. But she looked very patient on the feet. A little bit more than maybe we had seen in the past. Was sharp, able to back up Park. And as the fight went on, Park had much more success. Her experience kind of showed up and helped her rally a little bit, but it was a little bit too little too late. Izawa remained methodically aggressive in her grappling and did what she does best when she was going for those opportunities. And Park was able to survive, but again, like I said, too little too late for her to rally and score a knockout or put the ever talented strawweight champ of Deep Jewels away, who is now at atomweight. So not a terrible debut for her in that division. Very hard fought, of course, and you could see the emotion on her face afterwards. She began to kind of let it all out, but she looked awesome. Very excited for her future, of course, and I promise you she will be in Ryzen at some point as well. That is just, we knew that this fight was leading to that, and hopefully Park can as well because she is still very good. Park can get there at some point too. PFL finals went down. Julia Budd and Caitlin Young was a pretty fun fight. I didn't agree with 30-27. I thought that Caitlin won the first round, looked sharp on the feet, but then Budd fought the way she should have and utilized her wrestling to get the job done. Great to see there. Now we wonder if we'll get that Kayla fight in next season, because that is, if Kayla's going to stick around, that's the only thing to look forward to. And then if she leaves, Julia just becomes the new Kayla in PFL. So that is what that is, but not really anything to add about Kayla because it taught us nothing what she did to Taylor Gardotto, right? So hopefully Kayla does go to Bellator, though. That's all I'll say there. And then Bellator did have the show in Russia where Irina Alexieva got the job done, finally made her long-awaited debut. Great to see there. And then in the other fight, Darina Mazduke, who beat up the 500-pound fat man to get her contract, which was kind of hilarious. So that's how she got her contract. She suffered a second round TKO, so sets her back a little bit. It still is a decent prospect, but that was just obviously a ridiculous way to get into a promotion like Bellator off of a freak show fight like the one that she had. So we will see what is next for her. UFC 267 was also last week. My goodness, there's so much, you guys. Amanda Hebos beat Verna Jandiroba. That was a little bit of a bummer performance from Jandiroba. Good stuff from Hebos. Looked very good in there. I think Verna won the first round, lost the second too. I think that was what all judges agreed with. I don't quite remember, but I know that was seemingly the general consensus. Verna just struggled to kind of set up her takedowns the way that she normally does, hiding them off the back of her combinations. And I think that Hebos's just continuous volume and pressure with her striking made that a lot more difficult, and we saw that. So Verna couldn't quite get her game going the same as we had seen normally. So a very good performance from Hebos, and she rebounds in a very big win over her. And I still believe that Verna has all the potential to break into that top 5 and be a very legitimate player. But man, yeah, tough setback. She's going to have to learn from that one. But fun fight. And over in Japan again, Duel 22, Hisei Watanabe made her comeback in kickboxing, and it did not go so well for her. I think shaking off the rust. She didn't get beat up too badly or anything, pretty much just outpointed. But yeah, just did not quite look to be there, you know what I mean? So we will speak about her later, actually, or actually I didn't put it on the lineup. So I guess I'll get out of the way now. But well, also I did speak to Hisei if you want to check out that interview before her fight, her return. She's already got her MMA return lined up. So I don't quite remember when that's happening. I don't think she knows either, but she is getting ready for the MMA return now, which is where she should have been anyways. And it's funny because the kickboxing match, she admitted, was probably happening a little bit quicker than she wanted it to, is what she said to me. So Hisei Watanabe, a true legend of the sport, one of the hardest hitting female fighters of all time. Exciting to see her back at MMA, at least. Shook the rust off, at least in theory. We'll see how it goes. So look forward to that whenever that happens. One Next Gen also happened. There's a lot. I'm sorry, guys. One Next Gen, the Atomweight Finals. Stamp Fairtex beats Julia Mezabarba. Ritu Fogat beats, was it Jenilyn Olsum? Tournament's an absolute fucking disaster. It is completely pointless now. Not even really the same thing. I mean, at least not even two originals. I mean, I guess Ritu, yes, was an original, but then she lost and got taken out of it. And then it's just been a complete disaster. I don't even want to talk about the tournament anymore because it's a joke. And now I haven't even got to see these fights yet. So I mean, I'm going to move on, but we know that finals matchup is going to happen next month, probably. Stamp versus Ritu should be good. But yeah, this was a nightmare. One's got to get there. They should not do any more tournaments until the pandemic's over because this was just ridiculous. Then last but not least, in Shuto over the past weekend, Mina Kurobe, the ageless wonder, as well in the atomweight division. There's a couple of them. She's up there too. Lost her title to Sarami. I think it was unanimous decision. So some new flavor on the block, breaking into the top 15. Another prospect to watch as a new champion has been crowned. So yeah, it's a lot of stuff happening at atomweight, though. I love to see that. A lot of big things and just around the world in general. So that was a quick catch up, as quick as I could condense it. So let's see what all you guys have to say now. I'm seeing the comments here. Crazy crazy things going on in MMA. Jimmy says back-to-back UFC 267 and 268 were brilliant. Yes, they were. Rain agrees. Joseph says, I say that because of the travel issues with COVID and Vera is an international fighter. Fair point. And I haven't been keeping up with her on social media, but she could very well be in the States already. We'll find out. I mean, the fight's next week. She better be here. So we will see. We will see. But I have no reason to fear Joseph. They've made things work plenty of time. James says, I saw the replay. This Sayuri looked great. Grappling was top notch. She is very good. The fact that she was able to beat Kana, who is much larger, and everybody's going to be much larger than Sayuri because she is a very tiny individual. 4'11", is a champion in a 97-pound microweight class. I don't know if she cut any weight to make this fight, but she's going to be outsized by everybody. But her technique and skill set alone is good enough to where it might not matter, because if she could beat and, control Kana the way that she did in all areas, it's gonna be fun to watch. And Jimmy going right at it says, just make Sayuri versus Sekizawa. My goodness, I know we've talked about that hypothetical a little bit on previous shows, but when that does happen, I hope it's for a title. And my goodness, it's gonna be just grappling beauty, brilliance. It's gonna be so fantastic. Man, two of the right up there. These two and Aaron Blanchfield. Well, no, Sayuri's not a prospect anymore. If she's number 2 in the world now, top 3 fighter, you are officially not a prospect anymore in my books. So she has shed that label. Seka still in that boat with, 4-0. Just got to atomweight. Sekizawa and Aaron Blanchfield in my books. 2 of, if not the absolute best prospects in the sport overall. Sayuri Oshima, no longer a prospect, but that fight, my, that'd be good stuff at some point. Rain says Sayuri versus I would also be good. Yeah, wouldn't be terrible. I just want to see I back, honestly. I don't know what's up with her. She hasn't fought since, what was it, New Year's? Was that when that was when the Kana fight was. Man, she hasn't fought all year. That's a bummer. She needs to get more active. I love Ai Shimizu. She is great, very soft-spoken, fun fighter, good talent. I feel like there's like one hair in my eye, but I can't find it. Yes, I needs to fight. I needs to fight. I don't think that one makes much sense, obviously, considering I last lost to Kana. But that would be a fun matchup for sure. Rue says he's really interested for Sayuri versus Seka. More interested for that than I. Yeah, definitely. Hard to disagree. Go says the transitions in Oshima versus Asakura was fun to watch. Very interesting transitions on the ground. It was good stuff, man. And how about those up kicks, you guys? I think her short little legs really helped her in those positions. I mean, landing complete flat foot to like the eye, just right in the eye socket of Kana. I mean, and props to Kana for taking those, because my goodness, she was getting fed plenty. Oshima is just attack from any angle. I love it. I love it so much. Rue says, my bad earlier that we could not be as disrespectful when certain fighters were mentioned with Serena, since she was a guest and a great one at that. All right, yes. Always got to be extra respectful to the guests, especially when the guests are fighters. Rain says 267 was good stuff. He got cracked by the same right that Marina threw at her. Yes, but fortunately for her, Virna does not hit as hard as Marina, as few do. Stamina is here. Good to see you, man. It has been a while. Ghost says he says hitting power is like Samart. Doesn't look hard, but she KOs people cold. Really cool. Yep, she is a highlight reel machine. Joseph says, while Misha is in Chandler, Arizona on Saturday. All right. Well, again, no need to worry. All right. So with that in mind, you guys, 20 minutes in for a quick catch up. Appreciate all of the comments. You guys got to be the guest host today when we're solo. Always how it goes. Let's get into the big one. And we have plenty of thoughts on the strawweight title fight rematch. Rose Namajunas defeats Zhang Weili via split decision. 47-48 for Weili. 48-47 for Rose, and a 49-46. That one's a bit absurd. let's get into it, you guys. I know you got plenty to say about it, I am sure, as do I. I was there for this. I was out in the arena, came out from backstage to watch this one, had to. And it was electric in there. Everybody was super into this fight. Energy was great. There weren't really any, I didn't notice any boos for Weili outside of when she was getting introduced. So people kind of got over that nonsense right away, which is good. But yeah, Rose retains. Um, and the interesting thing about this, I rewatched it right before going on air here, or before my nap actually. But when I first saw it live, I gave Weili the first 2 rounds and Rose the last 3. And I felt pretty comfortable about that. But then watching it back just now, I man, it's very tough to score. I think the clearest rounds, and I mean not even that clear. I think every round was pretty damn close, except for maybe the 4th round. So 4th round I'd say was Rose. First round Weili, second round Weili. Those I feel like were clear edges, let's put it that way. Weren't clear rounds, but just edged enough to those to each fighter. And then round 3 is a big hinge, I know, for everybody, where that's where it came down to. And if we look at the stats here, um, Weili 29-16 on the strikes, plus a takedown, which was a solid takedown. Very advantageous positions. We'll get to that. We'll get to that. But then round 5, as much control as Rose had here, 4 minutes practically. I think that that one's actually the closest round along with round 3, because Weili was very active off her back. As you can see, 45, 40, why did I say 45? 44 strikes to 31, actually outstruck her off of her back. And of course, nothing super impactful. As you can see, the significant strike counter, which I hate and I never consider, obviously, why I'm looking at totals here. But Rose didn't do a super significant amount with her top control aside from being on top in that 5th round. And I still think I probably edge it to her because Weili wasn't doing an incredible amount of damage, but she was being very active and literally more active than Rose, as you can see. So either way, I'm just gonna say I'll still, on that rewatch, I still will give Rose 4 and 5, 5 very, very closely. But round 3 is the one that I don't know how to go about it. I'm not sure how to go about it because I think it was real tight, about as close as it gets until Weili hits that takedown. Hits that takedown around the minute mark, as you can see, the final minute mark. Gets on top of her, gets on her back, almost the rear naked choke there. Not really almost, but she was in a good position where live I was like, oh shit, this might be it. Obviously time running out. But then she gets full mount, drops a real solid elbow, maybe another punch after there. If she had more time, you guys, Weili was taking the belt back in that 3rd round. Man, she really got beat by going for that takedown late in that round. I think that if she would have hit that earlier and got into that full mount, that could have been it, because Rose looked a little bit stuck there. I know it was a very brief period, and Rose, of all people, could probably get out of there more than most, but I wish we got to find out. So that very well, that sequence on the ground, I think I'm fine giving it to Weili. But before that, it was very, very close. And I think I leaned a little bit towards Rose. So that 3rd round is the one in this fight where you kind of gotta assess the most to determine who won this fight. It was very close. Every round was very competitive, obviously. Weili outstruck her overall in this fight, 162-130. So it was kind of everything we hoped for the first time. Maybe not as, I mean, it was pretty action packed and a lot of momentum shifts and all that kind of thing. Some wobbles here and there early on, but Slippery canvas as well, but I understand scores for both of them, and I think I might say, watching live, Rose, I had the final three, and then on the rewatch, I might edge Weili that third round of first three, and I know that seems the common score for everybody else. I looked at MMA decisions, I think the day after, and that was pretty much unanimously the vote was Weili won 48-47. First three, last two were to Rose. But again, I think that fifth round, there is a case for Weili. I don't know if I'm comfortable giving it to her, but my goodness, this fight was very, very competitive. So that good to see in that regard. Very sad to see Weili lose two in a row, of course, but and put in limbo, which is very fucking frustrating, but it was a good fight. So Jimmy asks, man, did you think that Weili looked good? Her wrestling was on point. So this is something that we will get to in the mailbag. Yeah, I mean, obviously, Weili looked pretty good because she arguably won the fight, Jimmy. So I will be repeating myself later, but yes, Weili, I don't really think has ever looked bad necessarily, but her wrestling was very strong, as it typically is. Of course, training with Henry certainly helps and helped. Yeah, she looked good. I don't think she looked her best by any means. Not by any means, but I think we very have clearly seen her look a lot better. But yes, she looked good. Of course, she arguably won the fight, as Rain says, 3-2 to Weili. So a common score right there. Um, James asking how bad was the booing that Weili got. Like I said, it was really only when she was getting announced by Bruce. I don't remember hearing anything after that. So it wasn't that bad, thankfully. And even during fight week, like press conference, she was fine. They were all fine and nice to her. That was really the only instance of booing that I can recall. So Joseph asks, Drake, can you tell me what Dana does not like? Carla, I'm assuming he said we have an option. PS, who you got, Max or Yair? I'm assuming, Joseph, you're asking, can I tell you why Dana does not like Carla? I don't know why he's so mad at Carla, but it's really stupid. It's really stupid. The story is literally fucking crafted itself. And if he does not have the faith in himself to be able to tell that story, promote that story, that rematch, then he should just retire right now because it is just laid out for him. It is too good. And should have happened on this past Saturday instead of this fight. But here we are. And then Max and Yair. I think Max will win, but I think Yair is going to do a lot better than people are giving him credit for. They are really counting him out. Yair is pretty good as well. And yes, he's just been rather inactive. Rue agrees with that common consensus that I was saying, 3-2 Weili, first three for Weili. Jimmy also says 3-2 for Weili. Round three, Weili was on mount. Yeah, see, like that final minute was so big for her, but it was very quick. So it's tough. It's very tough. Stamina says, damn near every round was a shoulder shrug for me. Had no strong inclination to favor either combatant. Not a fight. I'll be in a rush to watch again, all told. All right. And there you have it from Stamina himself. And oh boy, look who's back, you guys. Yusuf, we haven't seen him in weeks. Good to see you, sir. Thanks for tuning in live or commenting again. Maybe you have been, but either way, good to see you, buddy. He says, as a Weili fan, why should we give fans the Joanna rematch just to have a war again for your pleasure with no title implications? Fuck that. We'll both kill contenders until you're ready for a title eliminator. Yeah, I think I understand where you're coming from. I don't really, the direction I would go from here for Weili probably wouldn't be the Joanna rematch. I don't think it would actually, because I need that freshness, man. Somebody mentioned it to me on Twitter the other day, but like Rose and all these rematches, the Carla one at least has had a lot of space to breathe. But after that, you got to stop with rematches, especially in this division. I know they're all going to be fun, but like this division is too good not to do all these fresh matchups. So Weili versus Joanna can hold a little bit. Have Weili face somebody new next. Not quite sure who we could slot in there. Maybe we'll talk about it here momentarily, but I'm not, crazy about that next just because I want freshness. She goes from fighting the same person twice. That they would be kind of similar to Rose, where her last 4 fights would only be against 2 people. I don't like that. I don't like that. So, Yusuf, I kind of get where you're coming from there. James says Jack Slack, Lawrence Kenshin has said Weili won. She just waiting for Ghost has to say, since all three are wonderful analysts. Okay, so I wanted to mention this too because shout out to our boy Sammy. Sammy Arnett, who I don't know if he watches live anymore, but if you do, man, appreciate you. And if you don't, if you just watch in general, appreciate it. But he has some questions in the Twitter mailbag, and he asked about Ghost's opinion. So I want to say this to you guys right now. Obviously, Ghost is a big part of our community here and a big part of the show as he contributes with the Phantom Punch breakdown. But he clearly isn't physically on the show, and in the comments, he doesn't want to, be assaulted by your wave of questions and all that. So if he wants to get around to it with a breakdown or whatever, he will. But just ease up on him a little bit, give him some space, because I know he's just trying to relax and enjoy the show at the same time. So I just want to say that because I know you've been going at him a lot, recently. So yeah, just treat him the same a little bit. Unless Ghost, feel free to override me because this is you we're talking about. But Rain says, what? Jack Slack said Weili won. He's like the biggest Weili hater. So there you go. That means that some good support for Weili then. Ghost says, really cool stuff from Weili. I'm not going to tell my scorecard since I'm biased towards Weili. There you go. Rain says, Israel Adesanya even said Weili should have won that. A lot of people thought so. James said lots of people saying Weili looked the worst that she has ever looked. So we're gonna get to that as well. I'm not gonna comment on that just yet, James, but we will get to that. The outside low kick, Weili was landing one off the jab feint when Rose would retreat, and then she would slip the jab and plant the low kick while Rose stepped in. Counter left hook off Rose right straight was beautiful. Weili throwaway overhand to the left body kick was sharp. Yeah, she definitely had plenty of good moments there, and enough for many of us to believe she got the win there. So Joseph says, yes, because after that fight, Dana does not mention Carla's name. He says we have an option, and you would have to think the other one would be Marina, but there might be another one out there that, again, I'm not super jazzed about, but we'll get to that for the mailbag as well. Ghost says, did you notice that the weapons that gave Weili trouble in the past, she threw at Rose, left high kick after feinting the rear kick? I did notice that, actually, which a little bit, maybe thinking outside the box a little bit, trying to play a little chess match there with the similar, or adapting to your problems a little bit, maybe. Rain asks, Weili versus Marina next. Possible. It obviously really depends on what they do with Carla, which should be the Rose fight. If not, I think that would be fine. But again, if Weili loses that one, then it's like, I might say give her somebody a little bit lower. But then it's like, well, Marina want to stay active in the meantime as well. So, I mean, the Marina Joanna fight, that's the one. That's the fucking one we should do. So I'm going to say no to Weili versus Marina. Give Weili somebody a little bit farther down. But I'm not sure it should be Yan Xiaonan, as Yusuf says right here. Yan, of course, one of my favorite fighters. In a fight that, we all want that to be the China versus China title fight, and rather than just having them go at it right now, both coming off losses. That one makes sense to do. But again, I don't want to see it out of my own personal reasons. And for either one of them to lose right now is not something I want to see. But that one is probably the most logical, actually. Jimmy says Weili versus Dern, though. I might go that route. If I had to supplement one in, I think it'd be that one. Stamina says Carla is in that Leon Edwards / Corey Anderson, I'm assuming you mean, spot. Done enough, but basically it's not enough. She's got a 5-fight winning streak, but she squeaked it. Arguably shouldn't have it, so it doesn't look good for her. Yeah, that's a good point. That is a very good point. Ghost says, "Look, guys, I got to meet Weili at Fight Ready. I'm clearly not the guy to give an honest opinion." Boy, oh boy. Joseph says, "I know what Dana is doing. He's going to book Rose versus Rodriguez because that's a fresh matchup. See, and out of that aspect, I wouldn't hate that because, like I said, after this last win for Marina, she as well has earned a title shot. Her and Carla both have earned title shots. Who did it first? Carla, obviously. Who has a win over her on paper? Carla. Do I think Marina won that fight? Yes, I do, but that's not how it shook out. So I would be upset by it, but I wouldn't be as mad as I might be in other cases, Joseph. So I think Marina versus Rose is a much more fun fight, that's for sure. But I still love the Carla rematch as well. Stamina says Zhang versus Dern. Rodriguez should only fight someone similarly close to title contention. Someone 0-2 against the champ shouldn't get a chance to turn back one of the division's main contenders, IMO. So I assume that takes Joanna out of discussion there for you, Stamina, as well. Joseph says maybe Dana hates Carla fighting style, winning a lot of decisions before her last fight. PS, was the canvas sticky? It looked slippery to me, and I know they were kind of talking about it out there, looking or feeling a lot. It was lacking traction, I guess you could say. So, yeah, I'm sure Dana's not a huge fan of Carla's style, but I mean, after that last win, it's like, come on, dude. Jimmy says Weili versus Gadelia. I think that's perfect, my man. That's if you want to talk about not a setup guaranteed, like perfect rebound fight, that's kind of how it would look at this stage, but I think that would be totally fine. Fresh fight. I wouldn't be mad at that whatsoever. And, Claudia would love that too, because that's a huge opportunity for her to get right back in the mix because she's gotten out of it a bit. Scott is here, though. Good to see you, man. He says Weili Andrade too for him. So that's also one. It would change the thing I said about, if we were to do the Joanna rematch, that would mean for Weili, she'd fight 2 people only in her last 4 fights. If you throw in Andrade in there, at least it's 3 different people. But yeah, I'd be okay with that one too. And I mean, that's a good possible, fight night headliner maybe for the UFC, or, a co-main event or a third fight on a pay-per-view. Who knows? I wouldn't hate that one maybe either, but I do prefer the freshness. I'd go the Claudia one over that one, but it would be fun to see. Jimmy says Zhang versus Dern would be great, as he agrees with, I believe James said that. Yeah, that one is fine too. Stamina says Claudia seems to be on recuperation leave. She might be gone a while longer. Well, all right, there you go. And he says, you misread my question. Your thoughts on Weili saying she doesn't want to go to war with Jan, as you asked, etc. Yes, I did ask that. That was actually Ghost's question, I believe. So thanks, Ghost, for chiming in there and giving me that one. My thoughts on her saying she doesn't want to go to war with Jan. Well, she kind of said, right, that, if the Chinese fighters can avoid taking each other out to kind of work together, a little bit of a team mentality, right, to where they can boost up their area and region rather than take each other out. That's kind of how I interpreted it. I don't think Weili's scared of Zhao or anything like that. Or maybe she understands, that still would be the big thing if they can both get to a title fight, which still holding out hope. Maybe one day it can come back to fruition where those two fight for the title in China. Man, it sucks that has just really eluded us now. But yeah, I think it's just kind of a thing of, obviously it's been a tough year for Chinese fighters in MMA. I think she's thinking maybe the same thing, where let's not make it worse for each other. But if that was offered to her, I guarantee you she'd take it, as would Jonan. So we'll see. Go says Weili even caught the kick that Rose threw at her at 261. I'm just going to talk about the technique because I really enjoyed her improvements. Yeah, Yeah, fair enough, man. Um, Joseph says maybe Lemos because she was supposed to fight Nina Nunes, but female Cerrone is filling in. Yes, that is on the docket for the news. We'll get to that in a bit. James says Weili versus Claudia would be great. Claudia turned her down in 2019. There you go. We got some support for that one. Rain says, Drake, did you see Claudia's comment on Weili's IG page saying she's overrated and got lucky? It's lining up. It's lining up perfectly then. No, I did not see that. I did not see that at all. I follow Claudia, but I didn't see that on Weili's page. No, I don't generally look at the comments, honestly, unless they like really stand out for whatever reason. But that is interesting. Make it happen, Dana. Rain says, look at Weili's Instagram page. She comments, oh, okay. Yeah, just no respect for some people. Yusuf says, based on the fact that Weili took Rose down 5 times and Weili got taken down twice, is it safe to say a healthy Suarez beats both? I mean, she could, obviously. Yusuf, in good way of incorporating Tatiana in there. I mean, just because she'd be able to take them down, that doesn't exactly equate to her being able to beat them. So one of the things in this fight that was a clear issue of sorts, Weili's biggest weakness in this fight was obviously her inability to get Rose off of her, mainly in that 5th round, and then in the 4th round as well when she got swept there. So after seeing that, I believe that Tatiana would probably stand a better chance against Weili if she was to have that same trouble. Or, I mean, she would. If Rose could hold her down that way, then she definitely would have that trouble against Tatiana. But Rose, shown to be better at getting out of those positions, obviously. And of course, Tatiana, a better wrestler than Weili. But I mean, if you're talking prime, healthy Suarez, Yusuf, you might be right there. You very well might be right, but it's just so hard to imagine. But I understand where you're coming from again. So that's a fair point. Very fair point. So, all right, you guys, that was one hell of a fight, one hell of a card. UFC 267, the lone female fight on the card. Good stuff there. What a time in New York it was. Until next time, we move on to the mailbag where we will talk more about this fight. So we got some stuff today. Thanks to our friends, Sammy, as I mentioned, as well as Miss Panny Tran. But we will start out with Sammy Arnett, who I mentioned the ghost thing because he asks about Ghost's opinion. Let's see, where do we start? Let's just start with here because his other question is kind of, we'll see it. He asks, do you guys think that Dana is going to use Weili to build the names of other up and coming prospects and give her the worst matchup possible? Do you think Dana is done with her? So interesting thought process here from Sammy. Let's start with the second one first. Do I think Dana's done with her? No, definitely not. I mean, of course, like I said, now she's in that shitty limbo spot to be in, but and he kind of, laughed off my poorly worded question about Weili getting back to a title fight. I think that was on me though. It was the night of the fight, however. So, I mean, done with her? No, I mean, that doesn't make sense. China is always going to be there. China is always going to be a huge market. They still have deals in place with the country. Weili is still a star, still one of the best fighters in the world. To say that he's done with her, I do not think that is a fair thought. So, yeah, that's kind of how I feel about that one. Sorry, getting some messages here that I got to reply to. All right, and then his first part though is turning her into a gatekeeper, essentially, is what he thinks. And I mean, when you talk about prospect building, Sammy, like that's going down the line a bit, and she's former champ, just came out of a title fight to match her against prospects. Like, let's say, I don't know, uh, if you, I don't know, name somebody who's around like the back 15 or not even in the 15. That just doesn't make any sense. I don't think that's going to happen whatsoever because then you're completely hinging on Weili's drawing power, star power as the UFC from a business side of things. It just doesn't quite make sense. And then you're very likely, very likely killing off prospects. Weili arguably won the fight, you guys. A lot of people think she won. So to do that, it doesn't quite make sense. Sorry, replying again. And I mean, if you were to do something like Hebus, I mean, Hebus isn't even a prospect anymore. She's a legit contender, and she has been. She is ranked fighter, beating ranked fighters. So you cannot go too far down the line with Weili. That doesn't make sense. Jimmy agrees. He doesn't think Dana's down with her. Dana was very nice to her at the end. Well, yeah, of course. Dana loves Weili. I mean, we've seen this. So, I mean, I don't think so. Rain says he thinks Sammy thinks she'll be like RDA. So, like I said, gatekeeper-ish, right? It's just she's in a weird spot now where she kind of has to be that in a sense, not all the way back to these prospects, but to maybe top 10 fighters. She has to be that because she's lost twice in a row to Rose. They fucked her. They fucked her in that regard. And maybe the judges did as well. However you want to view it. I don't think the fight wasn't a robbery, but obviously a lot of people think she should have won. Scott says Weili is a huge star, lots of great matchups, and she can even bump up to flyweight for some fights. She's must watch. Good future in the UFC for her. That is also, of course, a possibility. I don't quite want to see that, but that might be the smartest path if she wants to go immediately back for a title. I should have asked that. That's a great point, Scott. I wish somebody would have made me think about that. It was a long night. I didn't. That would have been a good question for her. So, interesting thought process there if she'll consider going up now. But I don't know. I prefer to see her hang around a little bit because again, Rose very well could lose to Carla and Marina. So then there you go. Weili's right back in there. So she'll be rooting for everybody against Rose for that reason. Kind of like Andrade recently. So yeah. James says, well, in terms of drawing power, Migu recorded 130 million views on Rose versus Weili too. So there's that. Sounds like a good number to me. Rue says, what were your thoughts on Weili saying she wants to fight as soon as possible and train at Fight Ready again? Yeah, so that was interesting. I think I asked her both of those questions, didn't I? I understand kind of wanting to fight as soon as possible, wants a win, wants to get back in the win column as soon as she can. And, she was a little banged up and bruised, but didn't seem like anything serious, not as serious as, Colby, who had his foot issue. He was limping into the press conference. So yeah, I would love to see her fight again, maybe in February if she's not, too banged up, but to stay stateside. I think the thought process here, Rue, is probably turn around as quick as you can and stay stateside, continue to work with Fight Ready, get a win with them, and then maybe take a small break, go back home to China where she doesn't have to, let's say, go back home, wait a little bit and start over this whole process. I think that's kind of putting words in her mouth a little bit, but that's how I would kind of assume maybe she's thinking is stay here, turn around as quick as you can, get a win with this new team, continue to get better with them, and then all right. Then I can sit cozy a little bit. I don't have to stress out. Go back home, see the family, all that kind of thing. But yeah. Says, like, come here earlier to America to train. She says that she enjoyed it here. Yeah, she definitely seemed pretty comfortable and happy with the surroundings and, obviously showed off some new tricks. So Stamina says he doesn't rate Weili's chances much at 125. Those former bantamweights will dog walk her. Yep. Bigger ladies there, of course. So Yeah, I'm not too crazy about that either, but that would have been a great question to ask. Man, I'm fucking kicking myself now, man. Why'd you have to bring that up, Scott? Good point. Ghost says I actually think Fight Ready is the perfect fit for her. And then he also says, guys, enough with the 125 BS. I met her in person. She's not that physically big as you guys seem to believe. Yeah, she really is not. She's not tiny, but she's a smaller strawweight, I would say. You know, having seen her also in person multiple times now, I was at both of her Rose fights. Yeah, she'd be definitely outsized as stamina mentions by the former bantamweights and whatnot. So, and yes, she's very, very strong, which is perfectly fit for strawweight though. So don't know, maybe one day, but I've never liked those talks either. So, all right, moving on. Here's what I was talking about earlier. As Sammy asks, what are your guys' take on Weili looking the worst she ever has been? This was said by WMMA Addict, CHS Combat Sports, Combo Broker. He's completely name dropping everybody. And Combo Broker 99. Supposed women's experts. They said Henry Cejudo is bad for her because he's a narcissist and Weili needs to get back to her original style. So, Sammy, first of all, I'm going to say I have no idea who these people are. So, probably safe to say they're not experts. And especially one of them the one that I do know of is just an arrogant douchebag. And I'm not going to say which one that is, but they'll know who they are. Yeah. And you want to talk about disrespectful to fighters earlier? There you go. It's one of these people. Maybe you can figure out who it is. I'm not a fan of them personally, obviously, but not media personnel as well. So it is what it is. Any you can have your channels and whatever, but I don't know. I guess I don't really have a take on their expert opinions necessarily, Sammy, aside from the fact that if their opinion is Weili looked the worst she has ever looked, that's an awful take. That is simply an awful take for the reasons I said earlier. Weili arguably won the fight. She arguably won. And if that was her worst, then her worst is pretty damn good. Uh, and I don't know how you can say that's her worst performance when she got her fucking head kicked in 78 seconds the last time out. And I know she looked good for the minute leading up to that, landed all her strikes, right? But doesn't get much worse than that. And overall, I think that she looked pretty solid in this fight. Like I said, she arguably won, so I think that automatically ends that. That's a silly thing. That's just a hot take to be hot. You want to get your clicks, get your views. That's what these guys got to do. Again, I don't know who two of these people are. One of them I do, and I'm not a fan of them. So whatever. It's YouTube nonsense, right? For the most part. Just it doesn't make sense to say that. And again, if that is the case, then man, her worst is pretty damn good. So, and Henry Cejudo being bad for her because he's a narcissist, it's a character. First of fucking all, it's a character. Henry's actually a very genuine, nice, real, caring person. Like I'm falling. You're making me fall into the trap now. You're baiting me here, Sammy, because these guys getting baited by Henry, who is doing a Colby type thing with a shtick and a gimmick here. No, I don't agree with Henry being bad for her either. Specifically because he's a narcissist, that doesn't make any sense. Fight wise and training wise, he's clearly helped her in multiple ways just from what we saw in this fight and the preparations ahead of it. I think in the training footage you could even see that. Like I remember watching the footage of them in Henry's house together, and I mean, just the way they were kind of breaking things down, looked good to me. But Weili needing to get back to her original style again. She arguably won. A lot of people think she won. It was a split decision. If you slot in one different judge, maybe she's the champion again. It's just over the top, over analysis. Hot takes to be hot. It's I'll leave it at that. I'll leave it at that. I could go on a bit, but we'll leave it there. Um, Yusuf says Weili was struggling with distance striking. How can she get better? She can't always brawl. That was also something I did notice here against Rose, which was interesting because if you look at like the Joanna fight, Joanna is a lengthier, ranger fighter, and she did not have as much trouble. I don't know. Maybe it's the approach and the game plan that she might have had for this one that led to her not being able to find her range as well, where she was maybe more not grappling, oriented in her thought process. But yeah, that was something to note out, Yusuf. Um, Go says Paulo Costa also fights at Fight Ready, but doesn't fight with any strategy. But Weili follows their game plans. Well, there is that. Rain says I don't think highly of those guys. There you go. James says all those guys you mentioned don't know anything about the fight game. There you go. Stamina says I know all of those people. They don't tend to agree enough as for all of them to have said the exact same thing on that topic. I think Sammy is being a tad economical with accuracy there. Always possible. Go says just think about this 8 weeks with Henry Cejudo with all the improvements. Think 2 years more training with Henry. I mean, yeah, scary thought there. Go says, think about how happy she was when she walked out, and after the fight, she even said she loved training her. Yeah, no, her energy was very contagious all week. Being around her, she was very happy. All the interactions I had with her, she really brightened my day. Just chatting with her briefly and all that. So, yeah, I mean, she seemed in a very good place. Not taking the moment too seriously, which obviously sometimes that can be a bad thing, but I think she did it right in terms of taking in the vibes and all that kind of thing. So in a good place mentally she was this time around. Not that she wasn't the first time, but she talked a lot about the focus and all that. Joseph asks, sorry about that, what were your thoughts on Dean ripping her, saying she was scared Rose was going to KO her again? So yeah, I noticed that on the rewatch. Obviously couldn't hear it live being there, but I mean, and I wouldn't say ripping her. I definitely wouldn't say that. He mentioned it. Um, I mean, of course it's going to be in the back of your mind, but I don't think she was scared necessarily. But yeah, I don't know. I don't make too much of that. But Yusuf says Holloway lost twice to Volk last year. He became number one contender quickly. Very true. Very true. But we still have yet to see Yusuf if they will even make that trilogy. So obviously we'll see what happens here this Saturday, but we will see ultimately. That's still a hard sell, I think. I mean, at least for hardcores and everything. You should probably get away with it for the casuals, but yeah. Anyway, final mailbag question. Just one more in here as we creep up on the hour mark. Here, let me scroll. Got some fire here from Panny Tran, everybody. All right, so she starts off by saying hashtag free Jessica Andrade. Fuck it, make Rose versus Valentina super fight. I know Stamina's going to love that. Weili Joanna 2 can finally happen, and I already addressed that. I don't like that very much. Next, Andrade Carla, number one contender fight. Interesting path. That's a fresh matchup. I mean, if Marina's going to get the title shot, sure, do that. But then he says all 5 rounders, even on the pay-per-view main card. She says, excuse me, did I say he? Valentina would most likely beat Rose in her biggest fight to date, probably, and then Trilogy Nunes. Hashtag in before Julie Pena RNC's that ass. So, Panny coming in with some, I think, intentionally in instigative fire there. Don't necessarily agree with much any of that, but it's fun to think about. So Valentina Rose super fight, no, disagree. And so this was kind of what I was getting at with the option, right? Dana mentioning we have an option for Rose, an Andrade trilogy fight would be the wild card here. Andrade wants that. She will be back at strawweight at some point, I think. Clearly, she's also stuck in limbo at flyweight. They have that trilogy potential, having had a win over Rose. It's just, it's just not the right one. It's like, how many times the same people are just fighting over and over? All the champions fighting, former champions fighting each other. Are you, except for Carla, except for Carla. You can't keep doing that. And I think Dana's line of thinking, if it's not going to be Carla, it literally has to be Andrade or Marina. If he's thinking about Joanna, then get out of here. And I know that he had some recent comments saying, it doesn't quite work that way for you to just come back and get that, which, yeah, she's coming off a loss, man. And she's lost to Rose twice as well. That can't be an option. No, no, no. So if Carla's not getting it, you guys, it has to be Andrade or Marina. And I'm scared of that Andrade trilogy. As much as I love Andrade and they are 1-1, she hasn't earned that just by fighting at flyweight. That would be stupid. That'd be stupid right now. She should come back. And again, like I said, in response to Panny here, if Marina gets a title shot, which would be justifiable, Andrade Carla makes sense. Do that on the same card. And if Carla beats Andrade, you cannot deny her any longer. You can't deny her right now, but you are doing it. So that's all we'll say for that. Then, as for that bottom hashtag, Juliana Pena is not going to rear naked choke Nunes. It's not going to happen. Valentina would most likely beat Rose. Indeed, I don't think that one would be all too competitive, as good as Rose is. But I mean, hey, we're having these thoughts about her not even having won a recent fight. So is what it is. And then trilogy there. We'll see if that ever comes to fruition. Ghost says, I thought Weili was doing a good job getting Rose to overextend a few times, which was cool. Second and third, where Weili pulled and countered nicely. Yeah, man. She had some very good moments indeed, and connected with some big shots. Yusuf says commentary was biased to Rose also. I don't know about that. I thought it was pretty fine throughout. I didn't think it was too bad. And oh, there we go. Where's the shenanigans stamp? Ugh, shenanigans to everything about this question. It's actually, there's no questions involved, are there? So this is just mail. So that's why we're not calling it Twitter questions anymore, right? It's just the mailbag. Put a match to it. It's only good for burning. There you go. Joseph says, what round will Nunes teach Penny a lesson in respect? First round. And yeah, Rue, you're a good point. These aren't questions, actually. It's just mail. So Panny, as I said, coming in hot with whatever that was. Shenanigans. I need my shenanigans stamp. So apologies, guys. If Yusuf wasn't going to do it, somebody else had to. She took the reins. Took the reins on the return of the mailbag, the return of myself, and the WMMA Today podcast. So with that in mind, let's move to the news, everybody. We got some stuff that is left over from last week because we took that week off. As you can see, Steve had some things going on, and he does today, obviously. So we will get to the first order of business, which is in the super atomweight division. Mizuki Nisei Oshiro is taking on Eric Hoga at Ryzen 32 in Okinawa. And that is on November 20th, coming up here in just next week. Wow, time is flying, you guys. We're almost to the end of the year, almost getting to Christmas time. But Nisei and Koga both making their Ryzen debuts. Nisei, you have to think, and I'm going to say have to think, yeah, Nisei getting the shot in Ryzen only because she is from Okinawa and pretty popular there. 3-4 in her career, has shown glimmers of potential with, a big win over the legendary Satoko Shinashi in like her second or third career fight. Big win there, but just hasn't quite been able to hang with the rest of the top prospects in the atomweight division. I believe Oshima has a win over her. Siwoo Park, some others come to mind. That kind of mix there. She's kind of not been able to get past them. Great win over Mizuki Furuse in the main event of Deep Jewels. What was it? 34, the last event she headlined, and got a good ground and pound stoppage there, and then gets this shot in Ryzen, and then taking on Koga, who just got the win over Eru Takabayashi her last time out, which, bummer for us Takabayashi stands, because I know I'm not the only one anymore, but Koga looked solid out there. And I mean, she kind of primarily won that fight because of the fact that Takabayashi fell to the ground a couple times by going for some wild kicks, and then Koga got on top of her and she couldn't quite get off. So Koga, a good prospect as well. This should be a pretty fun competitive fight, but neither necessarily ready for, I wouldn't necessarily say ready for the Ryzen stage, or at the very least, the heights of the atomweight division. So I wouldn't not at all expect either to, be taken on the Hamasaki's, Asakuras, the Miyus even just yet. And even Oshima, who, as I said, I believe that she has submitted Nisei. I'm pretty sure that they have fought, and Nisei has lost to her. So yeah, it is what it is. Should be pretty fun though. James says, what did you guys think of Henry being surprised that Weili trains jiu-jitsu, wrestling, and striking separately, and that she hasn't really done that much MMA training before? I didn't know about that, James. So seems like a question for the other guys, as you're not really sending it directly my way, which is fine. Joseph says, what injury or reasons Nina had? We'll get to that, Joseph. I'm not sure though. To answer you right away, I'm not sure what the reasoning was for that. And Go says, yep, this year is going by fast. It feels like life is just slipping away. Man, oh man, it does. So wild times, man. 2022 is rapidly approaching. And that's exciting because that means Rising New Year's Eve shows. And we got plenty more coming with the Trigger series, which will be the week after this show, and then the landmarks and all that. So looking forward to more Ryzen at the very least. So yeah, more atomweight action. More atomweights is never a bad thing. Let's just leave it there, even though I kind of disagree with, I don't disagree with that fight happening. I think that's a fine matchup, but I would have expected someone like Sekizawa to get to Ryzen before Nisei. Let's leave it at that. But that's okay. Doesn't hurt nobody. I love seeing the opportunities. All right. So then, news in the flyweight division. Let's pull up the picture. As Sijara Eubanks and Melissa Gatto will meet on December 18th. What was that? UFC Vegas 45, I believe. It's on the lineup for something else here. Yes. UFC Vegas 45. That's the same card as the Nina Nunes news. This matchup caught me off guard a lot. Big time surprise here. Sijara Eubanks, obviously former supposed to be flyweight title challenger in her debut, former ranked bantamweight, back in the flyweight division now, looking great, at least from what we saw in her last fight. And now taking on Melissa Gatto, who has been in the UFC for a while, but finally got to make her debut in her last time out and looked great in doing so. But man, this is potentially another one of those thrown to the wolves situations. I was very surprised to see this, and maybe some big faith in Gatto. I mean, I think she looked phenomenal. Her career up until making the UFC, she looked pretty darn good, but she looked levels better by taking out Victoria Leonardo the way she did. And yes, it's Victoria Leonardo, but this is going to be a tough one. I don't know if I like it. I don't know if I like it in the sense that Sijara really kind of should not be taking on an undefeated prospect like Melissa Gatto after returning to flyweight and doing what she did her last time out. So this is weird. I don't really like it actually at all, but it'll be interesting. This is a big one for Gatto. Obviously, she can really advance herself a bit with a win here, but weird. Don't know what the thought process was here. So yeah, should be a good time on that card as we have more news coming, as I mentioned. So, and speaking of deep jewels, my goodness, you guys, the best posters in MMA. I don't know them and Ryzen. I think Deep Jewels is better though, because they're just like they get everybody involved. It's all just a big party on here, and the color scheme, the way that they have the textures. There's Takabayashi, King Reina right in the middle. Uh, oh, we got Furuse right there. I am Murakami. Good stuff. It's the last deep show of the year, I believe. They're posters though, just chef's kiss, beautiful. So Deep Jewels 35 will take place on December. Oh, I don't know. I didn't put it on the tracker there. What does it say? 12/11. All right, December 11th, same night. Well, not the same night because it'll be in Japan, but same calendar date as UFC 269. And on that card, obviously, I think the whole lineup is out now, but among the more notable matchups, we have Takabayashi taking on Mori Suda, Aya Murakami against Furuse, and King Reina versus Taya. And I'm not sure if that Murakami Furuse fight is at microweight because Murakami has been competing in that division since she fell out of the atomweight tournament due to the illness that she had. Murakami looking phenomenal there though, and hey, maybe that could be a fun future title fight against Oshima at the rate that she's progressing. Murakami, that is, and they could have maybe fought in that atomweight tournament. So both two tiny and talented individuals. But again, I don't know if that's atomweight or not because I don't think Furuse has ever fought below atomweight. And again, microweight is a very, very new concept over in Deep Jewels. So yeah, gonna be fun though. I love me some Deep Jewels, man. And if you're not on board with them yet, you guys, what are you waiting for? It's been a pretty solid year for that organization and closing out with some more fun. Um, Stamina says, Drake, do we need to upgrade your StreamYard plan so you don't look so pixelated? I also don't like Eubanks Gato. Feels like a mismatch to me. Yes, a mismatch. And yeah, I did upgrade, man. I think it's simply just my connection and it's just being extra awful today. I am full potato. Might as well just hide my face over here and become a little bubble with my old, very outdated picture, but that's no fun, is it? Rather potato than nothing. It frustrates me a lot, Stamina. I'm well aware. I fucking it drives me crazy. I need to fix it. I know. But yeah, Eubanks Gato, not big on that. And James says great stuff in response to his question. Rain says off topic. What are your thoughts on the Colby, Weili, and Chandler moment? Thought the person asking the question wanted Colby to say something racist. Well, knowing Gabriel Gonzalez, a good friend of mine, I don't believe that was his intention. I think he was maybe curious of like if Weili would say something, about him if she knew about his kind of character, because of course Weili is very, you know, or Colby, excuse me, Colby's very his character's the way that it is. But no, I thought that was brilliant. That was one of my favorite parts of the whole week. That was very funny. Just like the way that my favorite thing was just the way she patted him on the head. I thought was hilarious. Yeah, very wholesome Weili moment, that's for sure. And then Chandler getting in on that. Loved it. I absolutely loved it, Rain. I want more of that stuff in my my MMA. So yeah, I enjoyed that quite much at the press conference. Um, all right. As we move on here, back to full screen potato temporarily there. We have a retirement fight, you guys, and a little bit the old school throwback Japanese style, a little bit. As Roxanne Modafferi is set to retire in her next bout when she takes on Casey O'Neill at UFC 261 on February 12th. Location, I believe, is to be determined. I haven't seen one for that pay-per-view yet, but here we are. Casey O'Neill making that climb up the ranks. If she knocks off Roxy, she's going to be top 10. And I don't think she's top 10 yet, right? Oh, number 15 it says right there on the screen. So thank you for this excellent poster, whoever made this. Um, and I mean Roxy number 11, but if she beats her, good a winning streak, she'll get right in there. And a pretty good stylistic matchup, I think. I'm gonna lean Casey early here. I mean, Tyler Santos just had her way with Roxy, but Tyler Santos is a little bit of the future of the division as well, I believe. Someone who isn't, unfortunately, Tyler Santos, and probably not getting as much love as, let's say, the Casey O'Neills or the Barbers and other young up and coming fighters in the division, because of the fact that she's not as young as them, and maybe marketability will play into it. But Tyler Santos is a better fighter than all of them, which is funny enough. So I just had to get that in. But yes, Casey O'Neill with a win here is going to be all that much closer to a very quickly earned title opportunity. And I could see her pulling it off. But Roxy in her retirement fight got some pretty damn good motivation there. And good to see her call when she's gonna go out. And I say that this is kind of old school Japanese style, because if you're aware of how a lot of the legendary fighters, let's say the Megumi Fujis or what have you, have gone out, they'll do it where they let it be known that they're gonna do their retirement fight, and then they'll typically take on, let's say, uh, somebody where it becomes like a changing of the guard potentially kind of fight. So somebody like O'Neal, who is coming up and still kind of a prospect looking to become a contender with a win here. So for Fuji, in that case, it was Jessica Aguilar, who was, also one of the best strawweights in the world at that time, and eventually became the number one, but kind of that changing of the guard type of style in an expected retirement. So kind of cool to see from Roxy, and of course she would do that. So um, Joseph says Modafferi will be known for beating an overrated Barber. All right, Joseph, let's not say that now. that is 100% not true. Maybe by casuals, but definitely not the rest of the MMA world. So wish her all the best beyond and in the fight, but it will be a tough one. All right. So Scott asking, Drake, do I know why Macy Barber pulled out of the Blanchfield fight? Injury. So good timing, Scott, because that is what we're about to talk about next. Macy Barber is out of her fight at UFC 269 with Erin Blanchfield. Originally, that was supposed to be Macy Barber against who was she taking on? Macy Barber was fighting somebody else. You guys can help me out. I don't remember. She was supposed to take on somebody else. Blanchfield comes in to take her on, and then Barber goes out, and in comes Miranda Maverick, which I forgot to put on the ticker. Sorry, guys. I'm all over the place these days. Let me adjust that real quick. Macy Barber out of the Erin Blanchfield fight at Las Vegas. Miranda Maverick steps in. So this is like the same type of thing with the Barber Blanchfield matchup. Is like, oh, you're having these two young, very promising, likely future contenders, at least in some cases, coming up and taking one of them out potentially, like, and for Blanchfield, likely fast tracking, which she's the truth. I am super duper high on Erin Blanchfield, have been her whole career. She's legitimate, but I don't know how much I really like the fast tracking idea. And we're still getting that here because Miranda Maverick kind of in that same boat. I'm on board with her as well. One of them is going to get set back and then get pushed up higher than maybe they should be at this stage, especially in Blanchfield's fight, in her case, because this is her second UFC fight. But I don't know. It's tricky. I think this will be awesome. Two Invicta alum, two very, very talented young individuals. Should be a great fight. But yeah, in terms of that long-term kind of investment and looking at it for how young they are, it feels weird to me. But again, I very much I'm very high on both of them. I enjoy both of them as individuals and fighters alike. Should be a very good fight. But yeah, Scott, I don't know what Barbara's issue was. I think it's a wise choice to, avoid Aaron Blanchfield because that would have likely not been great for her in that scenario. But I don't know what the issue was. Maybe injury. Who knows? Um, Stamina. That was it. He says Macy versus Montana De La Rosa. I'm pretty sure that was it. Thank you, sir. Um, and he agrees that he 100% does not like Miranda versus Aaron, stunting the progress of one of them. For what reason? Nope, not into it. Yep. But UFC wants a quick replacement jump in there. So is what it is, unfortunately. He says, I respect the grind ethic from both of them. It should be said. Yeah, exactly. See, they're both absolute gamers and willing to take the short notice leaps on multiple occasions. I mean, goodness, Aaron Blanchfield was going to take on Norma Dumont. Can you remember that? That was it's very good that did not happen. Scott says, no doubt Blanchfield is a real deal. Yep, you know it, man. She is awesome and hoping, spoiler alert, hoping to catch up with her soon. I have actually never spoken one-on-one with Aaron, so would love to get to do that before this fight. And I mean, I'll be there anyway, so we'll definitely find a moment here or there. So UFC 269, there we are. So, all right, let's get that off the screen. As we move on to the news that came today, as Ghost quickly chimes in, hopefully Maverick can get back on track, but there's no layup. Not at all. Not at all. So, yeah, one of those fights where it's a bummer one of them has to lose. Big time bummer that one of them has to lose. But as mentioned earlier in the show, Nina Nunes is out against Amanda Lemos on December 18th at UFC Vegas 45. In steps Angela Hill. A bummer for Amanda Lemos, who, if she was to get in there and take out Nina Nunes, which was a pretty logical matchup, jumps her up probably further than beating Angela Hill will. But this should be a pretty fun fight. Angela, of course, very tough, always in the fight. Gonna bring the action to a very powerful and very dangerous Amanda Lemos, whether it's on the feet or on the ground. She's knocking down everybody, has submission skills. She's just overall the better fighter, I believe. So I give her the early lean, not to make a prediction, but Amanda Lemos is on a warpath right now, and I am looking forward to seeing her back. Bummer that, Nina's out. Don't know what happened with her, but yeah, leave it to Angela Hill to step on in and female cowboy it up, as I think somebody said earlier, talking about fighters taking their replacement fights. Angela Hill always willing to do that. So very, very active. And that goes down the week after Blanchfield and Maverick, which Marcus comes in here and says, Miranda versus Aaron Blanchfield fight. Well, time for me to jump off my bridge, in which I don't like this fight at all due to me having to choose one over the other. There you go. There you go. Exactly, Marcus. It's a big time bummer in that regard. And Go says, what would this mean? What would a win mean for Lemos? It would just means, I mean, maybe a little bit better exposure because Angela has been obviously more active and she's more out there in the public than Nina is. But essentially, a win means an extension of her win streak. I don't think it means maybe as much as a Nina win would, even though Nina, hasn't won since before the pregnancy and all that. But I don't know. It extends the winning streak. Either one would have, but exposure-wise, I guess this is probably better for Amanda. So, yeah, there's that. And Stamina says, don't like this one either, dag nabbit. I was down to watch Nina eat some serious leather. Angela Cowboy Hill, meh. There you go. There you go. None of these were original plans, though, right, you guys? Let's look at it that way. These last two fights were not the original plans, so take that for what you will. As that is the last bit of news on the docket today before we get to the fights this weekend. Let me make sure everything is in order real quick. Looks good. 7 fights to talk about between two different cards. Um, Stamina mentions real quick. Hill is tenured, just not so credible. All well. Yep. Well said. Marcus agrees, but Angela is durable, but still meh. Rue, excited to see Hill get smashed. There you go. The chat's favorite fighter. But are they as much of a favorite as we head into Bellator 271? As Miss Valerie Loretta returns to take on Taylor Turner. And everybody get your flags out, huh? Can we get the flags out right now? Kana gang, where you at? Need me some Kana back in our lives. Can't wait for Kana to return. I mean, healing up from after her surgery she had on the broken orbital. Don't know what she's been up to lately aside from getting swollen the gym, and then doing some cosplay with Rena Panchan. You love to see it. That's our gal. Get the flags out. Because it's Valerie Loretta time. So Valerie Loretta, Taylor Turner. There we go. Waves banner. In Kana we stand. Love to see it. The support alive and well. As Valerie Loretta gets ready for Taylor Turner, her first fight since the defeat to Hannah Guy, which was 5 months ago now. And Taylor Turner coming in, having not fought since a submission win in just recently, almost 2 months ago, practically. And then before that, 2 prior losses with her first appearance in Bellator. Her debut was when she spoiled Heather Hardy at that ground and pound 2 years ago. Oh man, crazy how that Heather Hardy experiment, how long ago that was now. As they come back in. Rain says Kana and Rena is my wet dream. Well, there you go. They are a dynamic duo to say the least, but a little TMI there, buddy. Not for Steve, but yeah. Waving the banner, Kana Army. There we go, you guys. Love to see it. So Taylor Turner is back in Bellator after going 1-1 in her previous efforts. Alejandra Lara, the second time around where she got TKO'd. And then Valerie looking to rebound. So we know kind of what the expectation from Bellator is. They want to get Valerie another win, get her back in there, in the win column, that is. And yeah, we'll see though, because Taylor Turner has obviously played spoiler before. She is much larger than Loretta, as you can see, 5'10" to 5'4" within the reach, and a former, well, at least her last fight was at bantamweight. So size advantage is going to be on Taylor Turner. This is a little bit of a trap fight, I think. Taylor obviously has a good amount of experience, has fought some very talented individuals, such as Lara and, Hardy, of course. And whereas Loretta fought a lot less experienced opponents, as you can see, I believe, if the math is right here, at the times of their fights, it's probably pretty close that Taylor Turner might have the same amount of fights as all of Loretta's opponents combined. Maybe. Not great at math and not willing to do it right this second, but yeah, is what it is. So potential trap fight here for Loretta, and that's kind of the thing, is now she's in a position where maybe stuck having to fight, consistently fight up when you might not necessarily be totally ready for what this top tier promotion has to offer you. But as we have seen, Valerie Loretta does have some pretty solid power at 125 pounds when she lands. She is, she's solid at what she does, and what she doesn't do well, she does not really do well. And I apologize if you guys are seeing me itching my ears. They're very itchy right now for some reason. Just to address that, if you have noticed, it's not the hair. Maybe it's the hair. I don't know. So yeah, in this fight, Valerie kind of has to do her thing, which is honestly make it a boring fight by fighting at distance, picking her shots, try to outpoint Taylor and wait for that perfect opportunity, which she has done essentially in all of her wins, to get the nods there. And whether it's with the knockout or decision. Because I mean, honestly, I think that's something we talk about every time we talk about Loretta is the fact that her fights really are not that fun, and she doesn't look too amazing until she gets the highlight reel finish, which that's okay. You're getting the job done, but there's still obviously a lot of work to be done. And Hannah Guy pretty much exposed her for the most part. So Taylor's going to want to replicate that same kind of performance. And I think she has a probably better shot, at least from what we've seen from her in the past against like the likes of Heather Hardy, for example. She is quite capable of doing that. She gets you down. She can get you down and then make it a little bit ugly for you. So, and then with these reach advantages, going to be tough for Loretta to actually fight at distance. So Bellator not actually doing her too well of favors here. So it should be pretty interesting. And yeah, I mean, I can't break it down too thoroughly because I think we kind of know at this stage what we're getting from Valerie. And who knows, maybe she'll show some huge improvements and new wrinkles in her rebound effort after first loss. We'll find out. But I think I'm gonna lean Taylor Turner. I really do until we see otherwise. So with that in mind, I'm just gonna say decision to stay safe. So unanimous decision for Taylor Turner. Valerie did show some pretty toughness against Hannah Guy, but we'll find out on Friday. So Stamina says, can someone teach me how to pretend I'm interested in a Loretta fight? I clearly can't muster it off my own steam. So there you go. Kind of what I was alluding to right before that. And Ghost going back to the always sticking with the Khan chat. He asks, I saw Khan and Panchan cosplaying. Are they training together? I don't think I'm sure they've trained together before, Ghost. They don't train together regularly. But yeah, I've never seen any or heard them talk about actually training together, just doing kind of, just hanging out together, having fun with their little YouTube videos and whatnot. So, and like working out maybe in the gym rather than actual MMA training or striking, I would imagine, since Panchan, is a kickboxer, but wouldn't be a bad thing. That'd be great. They should do that actually more often. I know Panchan is small, at least in terms of her weight, but not a bad striker for Kana to work with, So I don't hate that idea. They should get on that. Good thought there. Rue says, well, Loretta has to be somewhat good. Joanna was her sparring partner, and she replicated Weili. Doesn't always translate that way. Doesn't always translate that way. And he says, according to Joanna, unless that's an insult to Weili, there's also that. Yeah. I think at this stage that would definitely be insulting. Stamina says, has to be, in quotes, mighty trusting of you. Yes, they are teammates. So that's Joanna being a good teammate potentially. Maybe not. I might not even throw the potentially word in there, but so yeah, that is Loretta versus Taylor Turner. As we move on to more flyweight action, the fight that is perhaps a low-key banger of the whole weekend, it is Bruna Ellen versus Desiree Yanez. Very excited to see Dirty Des back in there sooner rather than later. Of course, came up short against an on-fire Vita Ortega in her Bellator debut, but now she's getting back in there, staying active against Bruna Ellen, who at a time I had a lot of faith in her going, maybe not to the top, but fairly far. And she's just been incredibly inactive in recent years. Obviously, Juliana Velasquez, her last fight was a loss. Of course, no shame in that. She's the champ. Nearly 2 years ago. Before that, her last win against Caliando, who just got her first Bellator win, looked great out there. Did Elena. That was 2 years, 3 months ago. Christina Williams, nearly 3 years ago. She beat Vita, which, around the time when Bruno was really looking sharp, looking great. Almost 5 years ago. Like, this is crazy, you guys. Bruna Ellen has been, and she's still just 25 though. So, I mean, it's not the end of the world. This is, it's great to see her back. I kind of forget that she was actually that young. So, very exciting. Hopefully she can get more active and, you know, essentially just get more active in this division. So there's plenty of great names there. She showed a lot of good potential early on. If she can just get back to being active and make some improvements where we've seen her struggle, and tough fights against Velasquez, and then Christina Williams was kind of a weird one. Christina Williams was hot there for a moment, but that passed by. So yeah, when Bruna Ellen, what she showed us in the past, if she can get back to that form, and if not a little bit better, we're gonna have an awesome fight on our hands. And Desiree Yanez, of course, maybe shaking off the rust a little bit against Vita her last time out, and then before that was completely miserably robbed against Melissa Martinez, Super Melly. Um, yeah, this can be a great fight because Yanez has looked awesome throughout her career, aside from maybe that last fight. Can do it all. Ate a lot of shots against Vita. Has to work on that defense a bit, but against Ellen, who might be shaking off some rust this time, I think it lines up perfectly for a pretty damn good scrap. And um, wherever the fight goes, each have their strengths and weaknesses, whether it's on the ground or on the feet. But I expect this one to take place mostly on the feet. Um, Yanez looking to work her boxing, and Ellen maybe maybe trying to close the distance, get her against the cage. One thing I always remember from Bruna Ellen on her come up was she was very, very good at chaining her takedowns um, at the end of her combinations. She was very good at that, but has kind of lost that a little bit, at least in the recent years. So maybe she can get back to that form. At least she should try and do that and get Des on her back. Easier said than done, but yeah. Rain says this end of the year run of fight cards is awesome. Finally, some great fights we can look forward to 100%. It has been a good old time to close out the year, as it usually is, as it usually is. So with this fight, though, as we've been talking here, I think I'm going to have to go towards Desiree. Almost, I don't want to say exclusively because of the time away for Ellen, but because she's also just shown, some pretty good overall well-roundedness. She can really do it all. And with Ellen, we've seen where she's kind of struggled against maybe lengthier, more talented strikers. Obviously Velasquez is kind of an exception, but I think Yanez, not big reach advantage or whatever, don't have the reach there on Ellen, but I think the size will be in her favor, definitely. And I mean, she has fought at strawweight before, but Ellen I feel like she looks a lot smaller than actually what the numbers say. So they could be off. I don't know, but she seems like a very small flyweight to me. We'll see how they match up against each other. But Desiree Yanez can hit pretty hard and is proven to be pretty strong out there. So it's an interesting one. It's a tough one to pick, but I think activity will give the slight edge to Yanez in this one. Ultimately, I'm very much looking forward to this fight. Will be a good one. So I'm going to go Dirty Dez on that one. As we go to another kind of sleeper here over the course of the weekend, right as our man Alvin chimes in. I need Nick's soundboard with Steve saying Alvin's name when Steve's not around. He says, "Good evening, Mr. Riggs. I hope you enjoyed UFC 267 and 268. I definitely did, pal. They were absolutely fantastic events. All the fighters performed at their best and had on such a great platform. Yes, I couldn't agree more, man. Thanks for tuning in as always, Alvin. Better late than never. The shows were fantastic. I am loving the stretch that we're on right now. Good stuff, and appreciate your positivity as always, my man." So as we carry onward, we get to the featherweight fights as the title looms large. Beforehand, we have former title challenger against a former champion in Invicta. The Anger Fist, Arlene Blenko, taking on Pam Bam Sorensen. Good fun nicknames there. Pam's second fight in Bellator after making the successful debut against Roberta Samad. And then Arlene, fresh off a fucking beaut of a knockout against Diana Silva. 3 months ago. Before that, obviously dropped the loss to Cyborg. No shame there. Man, tough fights for Pam in her first two bouts, but this is where she belongs. She should be a win away from the title. If she beats Arlene, she should get a title shot. I mean, that's just kind of how it is, actually. Sorry, Kat. Look at who you've been beating. Not quite the same. You haven't beat someone like Blanco. Blanco has only lost to the best the division has to offer in a long time. I don't have the full record here, but I know it's only Cyborg and Julia Butter, the only ones who can beat her. She's pretty much the Intercontinental Champion of the featherweight division in Bellator. So, and still doing what she should out there by scoring knockouts like against Silva. She is dangerous on the feet, only getting better, working at Jackson Wink, one of the remaining Jackson Wink fighters to look good, I guess you could say. Not to knock on them and their camp, but they have their issues, obviously, for multiple reasons. But Arlene Blanco is looking great, still looking great, despite being nearly 40 now. And then Pam finally getting to a big stage here, a big opportunity for her. Got past the trap fight of her own against Roberta Samad, managed to make it work. Struggled a bit in some grappling exchanges there, which we knew would have been the case. Don't think Arlene is going to want to take her to the ground. Arlene is quite the striker, of course. Can she hang on the ground? Yes. But will she want to go there? No. Pam will want to go there. She should look to go there. Obviously, as Cyborg submitted Blanco, that doesn't really mean much for everybody else because it's Cyborg and she is multi-talented in a very high way, I guess you could say, in an elite type. I don't know what I'm getting at. You know what I mean. But for Blanco, her her path to a loss here would be for Sorensen to out wrestle her, which in regard, that is path to victory for Pam Sorensen. She'll have to get inside of, the jab and the sharp boxing that Blanco presents and her power, which, it is not, not something that many can handle. And I remember speaking to Marlis Kunin exactly about her when she fought Blanco, actually, and said she was one of the hardest people she's ever fought. And if you know Marlis Kunin, one of the pioneers of this sport, one of the best to ever do it, she has fought a lot of people, very many people, and has fought Cyborg. So she said that Blanco is right up there with Cyborg in terms of hardest hitter she's ever fought. She fought Cyborg twice, by the way. So yeah, Pam needs to avoid that power at all costs. Really make this a tight, ugly fight, as she generally does and has her most success at. But again, Arlene is kind of figuring out that that's where, excuse me, that's where people want to take her because she's a striker. I mean, that's just plain and simple the truth there. So we know what each will want to do in this one, and it will be fun to see it play out. James asks, do you think Blanco is like Weili? Only Rose beat her. In a way, that's a fair comparison. One of those fighters who beats everybody except for the champ. So, I mean, Weili was a champ. Blanco has never been a champ. So I wouldn't quite put them in that same boat, James. Yes, Blanco has a good case to have beaten Julia in their rematch, but, she didn't and then lost to Cyborg. Blanco never been champ, but she's one of those fighters who clearly beats everybody that isn't the champ. So I don't know if I'd say exactly like Weili, but that type of person. Who's another good example? Joseph Benavidez, a great one. Faber, those kind of guys. And then even Faber was a WEC champ, which people just kind of completely forgot. As much as I'm not really a Faber fan, you got to credit him there because that was just the same division, just not in the UFC. So with this fight, though, I believe, yeah, it's like as much as we want to see Pam succeed and inject that new life into the promotion, I guess, in the division, particularly give Cyborg some new blood to fight. It's just going to be tough, man. I think Blanco is too good. She's a perennial. She's a champ that without a belt. She's been one of those fighters. So, it's one of those cases. And she just hit so goddamn hard. And I don't think Pam's going to be able to avoid that for a full 3 rounds and manage to submit her maybe in the meantime. That's her best path, though. Make it ugly, get in tight, get her against the cage, drag her into deep waters. And that's her best chance. Otherwise, I think she's going to be in for a long night. And Blanco's going to defend most of that. She'll probably get taken down a couple times, but not going to be in danger to the extent that Pam would need her in. So I'm going to take Blanco. I don't know about a finish because Pam is very tough as well, but I don't think Pam's actually ever been finished. I know only 3 losses there, but aside from the submission, he's never been finished by strikes. Felicia, got the submission on her there, but I'm going to go Blanco by unanimous decision. She's just still looking solid. Still looking very solid. Let's see. Jimmy says, hey, Drake, I know you said the chat was pretty negative the past few weeks, but it looks like Alvin was positive, so you can lump all of us under that label. Nice try, Jimmy. Oh, you can't, is what he's saying. You can't. Alvin is perpetually positive, though, Jimmy. Come on now. And Stamina, throwing in a random thing here about article I wrote saying this Nico article I've done for BJ Penn is hella hard to read, homie. Not your best work. I'm really struggling with syntax. I apologize. I'll admit that it was thrown together a little bit late as I got that in before the show here. So I will take full responsibility with that. Maybe I will reshape it a little bit afterward, but it's not meant to be my best work either, Stamina. I will openly admit that. I know I probably shouldn't, but it gets the point across, right? You know what I'm saying. I probably should not have read or talked about that, but too late. Jimmy says, disappointed that Weili didn't get a lot of media coverage last week for the buildup. Was looking forward to seeing Weili during the embedded, but never saw her. Yeah, that was interesting. I don't know what the purpose of that was. Of course, I'm happy to cover Weili as often as I can, cover anyone who doesn't get the spotlight as much as they perhaps should. That's what I'm all about. So, yeah, I don't know what was up with that. I had multiple people messaging me about it, actually. And James says, actually, Jimmy, she was well promoted on Chinese social media. That's good. And he says there's a lot of content with Weili on Migu and WeChat. All right. You love to hear that. That is definitely, yeah, that's good. You love to see it, even though maybe we don't. All right. So title fight time. Main event, Bellator 271. Chris Cyborg, the featherweight champ, defending against Sinead Kavanagh. The wild card we didn't see coming. Kavanagh getting the title shot over Zingano. Ireland's finest here. Yeah, Ireland's finest at featherweight anyway. Gets the opportunity in Hollywood, Florida. In the the Big Guitar, right? They're in the same building as the PFL was just a couple weeks ago when I was there. Cool venue, weird for MMA. I will say very odd MMA venue. Don't quite know if I like it for MMA, but it worked. It was fun, but is what it is. Cyborg taking on Kavanagh. Cyborg will win this fight, of course. Well, okay, hold real quick. Ghost says Twitter chat does work, by the way. Just tried it for kicks. It works, Ghost, but I can't see the comments. That's what I mean by that. So the chat works. You can interact with Twitter people who are on the live stream over there if you're watching on Twitter. But if you're on Twitter right now and trying to leave comments on Twitter, I do not see them. So I only see the YouTube ones. I don't know why StreamYard doesn't have that connection. So that's what I mean by that. If there was confusion. But anyway, yes, Cyborg will win this fight. I'm honestly going to say first round knockout. And the reason is because I think Sinead Kavanagh is a pretty fun, good challenge here for Cyborg because she's not going to back down. I think she's going to come at her like she always does because the Fighting Irish, right? If we're going to be totally honest. And that's just kind of how Kavanaugh works. Big opportunity for her. Going to want to get back some wins for her fellow countrymen who suffered defeat in their last fights. Gallagher and then Weili in their big fights. So I think Kavanaugh is going to walk forward, bring the fight to Cyborg, maybe land a couple here or there, but then she's going to get clocked because she's coming in looking to brawl with Cyborg, which is not a good thing to do. So she's going to pay for it, but it'll be fun while it lasts. I think we'll see some old school Cyborg in this one get the knockout in the first round, even though Kavanaugh is very tough. Not many can, sustain that kind of power that she presents. And yeah, Sinead is a vampire, apparently, as Stamina points out. Tapology has no age, so she's been alive for longer than we can possibly imagine. Rain says, truly the only fight that made sense for Cyborg. Yeah, I mean, it's not a lot crazier than the Zingano one. I mean, again, looking at who Zingano has beat at featherweight, it's not super title worthy and in comparison, for sure. Rue says, is Kavanaugh related to the SBG Ireland coach? No. I'm pretty sure they're not related. I know that she is an SBG fighter, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, but no, they're not related. Stamina says, come on, Rue. Last names taking precedent there. I'm pretty sure they're not. I'm pretty sure you're making me confused now. So yeah, but either way, should be a Cyborg win. I think I don't think there's too much to assess for this one. Cyborg is just that good still. Hopefully we get to see her face Kayla Harrison sooner than later. I would much prefer that fight over the Cat one. Nothing against Cat, but we know where these fighters are at in their stages of their career. Nonetheless, Bellator 271 going down in Florida on Friday. Love to see so many ladies taking up the lineup. 4 fights, 2 at flyweight, 2 at featherweight, a perfect balance. 2 up-and-comer kind of fights with Yanez and Ellen, and then Loretta and Turner, especially. And then top-ranked featherweights all around with Blanco versus Sorensen, which Pam should get. She should get the title shot if she wins. Blanco, she's stuck in a limbo now as well. And then the title fight, obviously. So, all right. With that in mind, UFC Vegas 42, as we approach the 2-hour mark, making decent time. I'm getting quite hungry here on my own. It always beats up the voice a little bit more. So appreciate you guys always bearing with me when we're solo, but still a good, fun time as always. UFC Vegas 42, as I mentioned, Holloway versus Yair in the main event. This fight card going down Saturday, day after Bellator, and we will kick things off talking about some more flyweight action as a fight that was supposed to happen earlier in the year. Courtney Casey versus Liana Jojua, excuse me, is going down. Finally, I don't remember when this was supposed to happen, but Jimmy says not really related to the women, obviously, but he's excited for Holloway versus Rodriguez. Yeah, should be a fun fight. And Courtney Casey versus Liana Jojua should be interesting, I will say. I don't think it'll be the best fight ever or anything like that. Jojua has not fought since her loss in Abu Dhabi to Miranda Maverick when that was Maverick's debut, right? TKO Dr. Stoppage had that cut on her nose, real nasty stuff. I think she's had some kind of additional issues with it, maybe, at least from what I've seen on social media, unless she's been reposting a whole bunch. As for Courtney Casey, has been on the wrong end of a lot of fights recently. Well, I guess just 2 in super recent times. Then had the win over Mara Romero Barella to knock her out of the UFC. And Casey's actually a pretty big favorite here, a decent favorite here, moderate favorite. Um, the interesting thing with Jojua is I haven't been ultra impressed with her. And yes, she's very good at getting arm bars and, certain submissions, right? And she has a win over Marina Maknakina, which is pretty impressive considering the size differences there. But against Moras, she looked that was just a horrible fight from both of them, and she got finished by Sarah Morris. Like that's a loss that's never going to age well. That's just not a good indicator of potential, really. And then against Belbita, she was getting lit up on the feet until Belbita, you know, not so smartly followed her to the ground and got caught in a submission. And then against Maverick, she was getting tuned up on the feet as well. It's very strange. It's very strange with Jojua because she's shown these glimmers on the ground. She's pretty serviceable on the ground. I mean, she kind of gassed out as well in that Morris fight. Just that was just bad. We should just not talk about that. But on the feet just has looked fairly lost, and which is very interesting because she trains so much with Diana Efsaragova, her best friend, and then Irina Alexieva, who we talked about earlier, had the win in Bellator Moscow, who is a very solid striker. Um, and I mean, both of those ladies are very good grapplers too, so it makes sense that all their grappling is very good. But like the striking of Efsaragova and Alexieva compared to Jojua is like it's a pretty big difference. So I don't quite understand what's happening with that. And then Courtney Casey has really struggled as well at flyweight. A lot of people think she beat JJ. I was like one of the few who thought JJ won that fight. Um, so we'll see what she can do here, turn things around. It's been a while since that one. Again, this fight was supposed to happen earlier, so they've had extra time to prepare for each other. Casey is going to have the length advantages, which is crazy because she was a strawweight, and Jojua has not ever been a strawweight, as far as I know. So yeah, this fight should be interesting while it lasts. It's not going to be the highest skilled fight whatsoever. This is one that Casey really needs to win, I think. Obviously, she'll be 1-4 here in her last 5 if she is to lose to Jojua. Her best bet is to keep it on the feet, I think. And Casey has shown some solid grappling as well, but has been out-grappled recently, in some certain exchanges with Aldrich. And then Cillian Robertson really dominated her. The Barella win, obviously, she got an armbar. Calvillo beat her pretty handily. She beat Angela Hill, if you remember that. I really don't remember that fight much at all, actually, now that I think about it. Casey versus Angela Hill, that's crazy. Submitted Randa Marcos back in the day. What was that? UFC 202, actually. So the best bet here is for Casey to keep it on the feet, I think. She can probably hang a bit with Jojua on the ground. Well, I think she can, but it's not going to be wise because Jojua has clearly shown to be her best on the ground. But on the feet, still has a lot of work to do. Maybe she'll show some big improvements in this one. And I know that she was working with Maria Agapova recently too, right? She cornered her for her last fight. So hey, if she's been training with her, that's a good sign as well. A better striker than and probably a better striker than everybody I mentioned earlier that she's trained with. So we'll see how it goes. Ultimately, I'm very, very not so confident in a pick for this one for either of them because as I said, they've both been kind of all over the place lately. But I think because of the experience that is on Casey's side, I think I'm actually going to go with her. I think she'll be smart enough and to not follow Liana to the ground, maybe in a case like what we saw with Belbita. But again, not super confident in that, but I'll take Courtney Casey. She's in a back against the wall kind of situation. I think those are always big moments for fighters, and somebody like Casey who is kind of self-aware. I think for the most part, I think she can pull it off. So I'm going to say unanimous decision, probably. Definitely not a finish from her end. I mean, maybe she could submit Jojua, definitely, but I think it'd be more likely for Jojua to catch her. We'll find out. We'll find out. Yeah, Marcus, exactly what I was saying. He says Jojua versus Casey is a fight you don't want to bet on. Absolutely not. It is a tough one. And Rue says he's calling out Liana Jojo for making that ignorant post about Chinese people and dogs. Just complete ignorance. Yes, that was horrible. Yeah, very silly. Very silly post that she made a while back. So gotta love it. Gotta love it, Rue. Yes, worth mentioning. Stamina says, I'm going to bet you have nothing good to say about it once it's over, Marcus. What are the most recent odds? They should be the ones on the screen, right? Or are you talking about something else, Stamina? Because, right, excuse me. Oh, getting dry. Getting dry here. Jojua plus 175. Apologies, guys. To the minus 210 favorite of Casey. So that's that. Oh man, sorry guys. I've been dealing with like a dry throat all since I got to New York, kind of. So it's been getting better, but oof, been a little bit rough though. Really annoying. Like at night, especially. Like when sleeping, I mean. So sorry about that. Don't know what's up there. So but yeah, Casey versus Jojua. So that is that fight as we hit the 2-hour mark and get to a past opponent of Casey's, which is Cynthia Calvillo, who is filling in for, is it Jessica I was supposed to take on KGB Andrea Lee. This fight at flyweight, and I just realized actually it's all flyweight and featherweight fights this weekend. How funny is that? What a coincidence. Andrea Lee taking on Cynthia Calvillo now after snapping her 3-fight skid against Antonina Shevchenko with just a brilliant performance. Fantastic stuff from Andrea in that one. She looked how we knew she showed what we knew she was capable of in that one. Got the triangle armbar 4 months ago, and then Calvillo off the heels of her first finish loss to Jessica Andrade. Just a month ago was at UFC. I was there for that one, right? 266, yeah. And then before that, I lost to Chukagian. I think that this is gonna be a rough one for Cynthia Calvillo. Unless she gets back to her wrestling, man, I'm still absolutely perplexed by the fact that she did not try a single takedown attempt on Jessica Andrade. And we knew that was a complete nightmare mismatch on paper, stylistic matchup for her against Andrade, but at least try to do what you're best at. She didn't even try to do that. So in this fight, she 100% should do that, which is try to wrestle and get Andrea to the ground. But then she's not going to be safe because, as we've seen on the early side of Andrea's career, she's got pretty decent submissions despite her great striking. And then she showed it off against Antonina, looked fantastic there. And yes, it was Antonina. I always have to mention that, who is, of course, not the greatest grappler defensively. Cynthia Calvillo, much better in that entire department. But I think KGB can give her some fits on the ground and then definitely on the feet, because Calvillo just, she's got an all right jab and her hands are okay. They don't pack too much power whatsoever. And she was able to get past Jessica I, which that was actually a performance where she utilized her wrestling. She's just been one of those fighters who has gotten away from what she's best at. Like, you look at when she came onto the scene and she was beating the likes of, was it ABC she made her debut against? And then she fought Pearl and she beat Pearl. Totally looked great with her wrestling there and went to her strengths. And she's just very much gotten away from that ever since, like, about the Carla fight, which kind of crazy to think about, how quickly she kind of fought Carla and then was suspended for the weed thing, right? There's an interesting path for Cynthia Calvillo, but I think this is a tough matchup for her, and the odds are near even, as you can see, minus 105 for Calvillo, minus 115 for Andrea. I I just think KGB a lot more dangerous everywhere, and unless Calvillo really gets back to just being an aggressive wrestler who does have a great killer instinct, like you look back at, those early fights that she had, even against JoJo, um, she's good at finding the finish and she threatens with it a lot. At least she used to, but it's just we haven't seen that. So if she can get back to those ways, then she's gonna have a lot better of a chance. But I struggle to see it. It's one of those things where I got to see it to believe it. And yes, like another back against the wall situation. So I think if we're going to, it's going to be here. But I mean, Andrea looked rejuvenated in that last one, so that was good to see. I think that she just has the edge a little bit everywhere, except for the wrestling, and even off her back. I think she will be able to maybe land some good shots, similar to a Weili or let's say an Oshima, and threaten with some submissions of her own. Um, Jimmy says, "Is Andrea Lee like Paige Van Zant? Low risk fight, but high notoriety." I would not. No, I wouldn't make that comparison at all. Really. Um, yeah, not quite. I think this is high risk for Kel. Not high risk necessarily, but it's a risk. I wouldn't say it's a low risk, Jimmy. I think it's pretty, right, even keel. And then high notoriety. I don't think KGB's notoriety is that high these days. After dropping 3. Ghost says Andrade. Excuse me, I can't even talk now. Andrade didn't even need to cut the cage off against Calvillo. Shows that high pressure breaks her, but high pressure breaks most women. Yeah, and I don't necessarily know if Calvillo will, if Lee will have that same approach, but wouldn't be a bad thing if you're going to take anything away there. Um, Rain, yeah, great point. He says, didn't Calvillo even draw with Marina? Yeah, that's right. She was getting what I think if my memory serves me correctly, it was either the first or the third round. One of those. I think it was probably I don't remember the order of which it happened, but it was one of those classic what happened to Marina in both of her, what her draw fights with Randa and Calvillo. She got 10-8'd in one of them with her opponent getting her on the ground and holding her for most of the round and then doing some damage to get the 10-8. But then Marina just worked him in the next 2 rounds. I think it was similar to that, whether it was the first or the third for Calvillo, I don't remember, but yes. So Calvillo, see, when she goes for it, she can manage against some pretty good fighters. And yes, that was Marina before she really improved her grappling defense, but that's still a pretty good feather in her cap, even if it was a draw. Stamina says Calvillo fighting to a draw with Rodriguez looks and feels even more weird to reconsider now. Yeah, exactly. That that is very odd to remember. And Rue says, you mentioned this earlier. What would have happened if Weili mounted Rose earlier in the third round? Do you think Weili would have finished her from mount? I think there was a strong case of it, man. Weili in that position is just absolute danger. And I mean, just the elbow and, the very short shots she landed in that moment. You don't want to give her more of those. So she had Rose pinned in a very bad spot. And maybe if it wasn't going to be ground and pound, there could have been a submission there. And I don't know. It feels weird to think about Rose tapping. She probably would have gone out or let something snap if that was to happen. But yeah, I wish there would have been more time to find out, man. Cause I think, Weili's chances they were looking pretty good right in that position. So we'll see if something like that happens here in Calvillo versus Andrea Lee. So that is that. The last flyweight fight of the weekend as we get back to a return for Leah Letson, who takes on Felicia Spencer. Boy, oh boy, talk about a tough fight to come back to after how long has it been? Nearly 3 years since Leah Letson has fought. And, somebody who, again, was intending on dropping to bantamweight after arriving at the UFC. And you'll remember Leah Letson probably most for her head kick of Elizabeth Phillips in Invicta. At least that's what I do. That's where she really burst onto the scene nearly 5 years ago. Still just 29, but Leah Letson just, you know, she hasn't quite shown anything crazy since then. She's solid and still a decent prospect, but we're here in this ridiculous featherweight quote unquote division where Felicia Spencer, I should say in the UFC, of course, Felicia Spencer is one of the best featherweights in the world. And yes, she's had a bad stretch here recently by taking on, of course, two of the GOATs, Nunes and Cyborg, with the Zara Farron win mixed in. Well, what do you expect? No offense to Farron. And then the loss to Norma Dumont, who I'm telling you guys is the real deal. But stylistically, I don't think Letson, or I mean, just overall, Letson's not as good as Dumont. So I don't expect her to be able to have that same success either. So this, I don't think should be a walk in the park for Felicia, but it's just a very tough fight after such a long layoff for Leah. Would I give her better chances if she wasn't coming off of this? Yeah, for sure. But would I still pick her? No, probably not. And again, maybe a back against the wall ish fight for Felicia. I wouldn't think she's going anywhere if she was to lose, but I just can't. I really just can't with the UFC's featherweight experiment anymore. Like I don't know. I don't even like to talk about these fights, like it bums me out so much. And I really do like Felicia Spencer. I've, talked to her a couple times, and great person, good fighter, obviously one of the best featherweights, like I said. I just I don't see what Letson can really do to her in this case, unless she's made some very big improvements as well since we last saw her when she had that win over Stoliarenko, which was a split decision, which I don't remember being that competitive. It's been a while. I don't remember it too much at all, but Felicia Spencer, we know when she gets you on the ground, she's also incredibly dangerous. I think the size will be in her favor, as it is against a lot of people. She is a natural featherweight. Letson, again, has fought at bantamweight before. Spencer will get to the ground at some point, probably in the first round. Might not finish in the first round, but if she doesn't, she will in the second. So I'm going to say second round submission. On the feet, I think, is where Letson's best chances will be. Probably wants to avoid getting too tight in the clinch or anything like that, so the Spencer can take her down. But it's just, I don't think it's a great matchup for her in a lot of respects. And as we can see here, she actually has the length advantages, so that's interesting. But I don't know if it'll be enough. It's just an inch or two. So it is what it is. Spencer round 2 submission for me. Jimmy asking, is Felicia Spencer like Weili, where it's higher risk but low notoriety? Both Spencer came off of a title loss like Weili, but a loss to Norma. Maybe different circumstances, but similar risk-reward ratio. I don't quite know where these comparisons are coming from, Jimmy. I know. I don't think so. Or do you mean Felicia is okay? I think I'm getting it now. What you mean is where Felicia is the higher risk but low notoriety. Let's say I'm trying to make sense of it here, but I don't know if it I don't think they equate too much regardless. So yeah. Stamina says, War Letson, bless her fighting heart. I can't pick a winner / favorite, though, because Spencer ain't no dainty flower. I love it. Love to hear it. Daintiness. Who would have thought on the podcast today? Scott says, you were probably too busy, but did you catch the Fight Circus 3 phone booth fight? I didn't see the whole thing, Scott, but I absolutely did see that it happened. Yeah, I did a quote tweet about it. I think it was Friday night when I was rather tipsy. So I saw it. I saw the clips of it. Very ridiculous. madness, which is completely acceptable in Fight Circus. So you love to see them doing their thing. Jimmy says, yes, for Letson. Are they trying to build her up? No, I don't think so. I don't think so at all. This is just a case of there being nobody in this division. Division again, quote unquote. I always have to do it. So she's got to come back to somebody like Spencer. That's just how it is. There's a lack of bodies. And Stamina says Letson is not being built up. Not at all. Like, I don't, as the UFC even acknowledged her existence, aside from being like, oh, there's a person fighting Felicia Spencer. I don't think so. I don't think so at all. It's featherweight in the UFC. That's how we end UFC Vegas 42. What a journey it's been. My goodness, you guys. Getting us to that regular length of nearly 230. Appreciate it. I mean, there was a lot to catch up on after me being gone for 2 weeks, the show being gone for a week on a Tuesday, all these changes all over the place. But what hasn't been changed and what remains the same is the fact that the Phantom Punch breakdown is back. It was also gone for 2 weeks along with myself. Spicy talk by Ghost asks Rue. We'll see. You already know who it is. It's Evelyn Martins. It was supposed to be the WMA Today 73 breakdown with Serena De Jesus, but Steve could not get it to work for whatever reason. But that's okay. That's why I do it all the time, I guess. Because I have smooth tones. No. I'm not gonna say that. But it is Evelyn Martins, as we are doing some foot sweep technique and a mini breakdown for the Kazushi series. Ghost made it nice and compact for you, so not as long as normal, you guys, and that's okay. That's okay. Better than nothing. We'll get back to. I mean, I assume we'll see. We'll see what Ghost has in store for us next week. But this week, it is Evelyn Martins, as I mentioned, and some Kazushi talk. Salvin loves these, he says, but hopes that Mr. Phantom is more respectful. I mean, what bad can you say about Evelyn Martins, right? Good prospect out there. So let me get over here now. And all right, let's get into it. The foot sweep technique mini breakdown. As I said, Kazushi series episode 3 within the episodes. And oh, look at that. He's giving me the shout out. As Kayla Harrison says in a recent interview with Drake Riggs, whoever that guy is, the number one place I use Kazushi is wall grappling. Shameless plug. Go check out that interview if you haven't with the Kazushi Queen. Let's examine Evelyn Martin's brilliant execution of the foot sweep off the fence by using the idea of Kazushi. Double jab allows Martins to enter range due to the opponent's linear retreat. Martins dips her head towards the rear shoulder of her opponent while throwing a rear straight. Martins widens her base as she enters for a body lock. Right leg being brought in between opponent's base and head post are being used to consolidate Martins' position against the fence. Martins has consolidated her position, so the opponent responds by pummeling for an underhook. Martins puts her weight on the opponent's underhook. Martins is pushing her left foot towards the fence while her upper body is placing weight towards the opponent's underhook. Dominic Cruz would be having a field day right now. Martins reestablishes her body lock and a head post to the underhook side. Opponent looks to pummel her right hand through Martins' far side underhook. Man, he really would. Martins allows the pummel since the opponent is tapping her own right hand, creating a connection. Trapping her right hand. Since the opponent is connected to Martins, wherever Martins goes, the opponent will follow. going for a ride. Martins brings her weight towards her backside, which lightens the opponent's right foot. Kazushi moment. Foot sweep and upper body connection removes the opponent's base from under her, leading to a beautiful foot sweep takedown. Slow motion time. Take it all in. Very nicely done. No question this week. All right. There you go. Nice and easy. Quick little mini breakdown from our boy Ghost Phantom. You love to see it. That was kind of nice. A little refreshing that way. Let me get myself back here. There we go. I think that's a good way to come back. A good way to come back. A nice little moment in exchange there with Evelyn Martins. Good stuff as always from Ghost. You like to see the art of Kazushi when it can be found. James says, Kazushi, love this series as well. Rue quotes, whoever that guy is. I know. Who's that poser? Jimmy says, man, good stuff, Ghost. This helps me understand the position better. James says, underhook, no inside low kick this week. Ghost says, no fan of punch breakdown. Next week, there was supposed to be one, but results of UFC 268 has changed my plans. There you go. We'll have a break off next week. All good, man. No pressure ever. But the masses are upset with you. Jimmy says, no. And Rue says, no spicy talk, but very educational. Super detailed stuff. Love it. Yes, indeed. Good stuff from her. And we look forward to whoever is next. Cannot wait to find out what. That was the 15th now. So plenty of great analysis and looks from our man Ghost. It's been a while. It feels like forever since we did the last one. So that was good. That was good fun. But you guys know what time it is now. We have reached the climax of the show. WMMA Today, episode 74. If you aren't already, for some odd reason, wherever you're watching, whether on Twitter or YouTube, I guess because those are the only places that we are showing video, follow us, like, share, and subscribe. The audio-only versions are now on Anchor and Spotify. Just search WMA Today on wherever, whether it's Anchor or Spotify or Google, will come right up. I believe on Google Podcasts as well. You can find it a lot easier now is the point, especially audio only. So if you would like to listen the day after and not live, if you can't make it, that is okay. Appreciate you tuning in regardless. It means the world. That's why if you follow, like, share, and subscribe, hit that notification bell, helps us out a whole lot. Keep yourselves up to date with all the good stuff going on, whether at the scrap or in the world of MMA involving the women. Appreciate it so much at Drake Riggs _ on Twitter, as well as at Steve K _ MMA at the Scrap News. You know where all the good stuff is. Stamina says goodbye. Can't wait to see you as well, sir. See you again as we close out for the shameless plugs time. Of course, in terms of other podcasts, I'm pretty sure I shameless plugged already off the top. Yes, I did when we were talking about Siori. So Broad Horizon episode 10 has arrived. The 1-year anniversary show, the big anniversary show. Had to do it as big as I could. Come back with a bang after a couple months off from episode 9. Had been wanting it. It wasn't actually on the anniversary like I hoped, but that was for multiple reasons. So a big 2-hour episode of Broad Horizon for the 10th show. 5 great guests. Had to bring back the GOAT, Megumi Fuji, who was on episode 1. One of my favorite people to talk to. One of the best fighters of all time, of course. Fantastic stuff. Picking her brain as always. Could talk to her forever. She was on there. Sari Oshima, as I mentioned, the Deep Jewels, atomweight and microweight champion, the number 2 atomweight in the world now, as far as I'm concerned, with the big upset in Ryzen 31 over Kana Sakura. She was on. Great stuff catching up with her. The new featherweight champ as well, Juntaro Ishiku, who beat Yutaka Saito with one of the nastiest cuts you'll ever see from a flying knee in the main event of that same card that Oshima won on. Lenny Hart, the iconic voice of Ryzen and Pride, And then the boss man himself, Nobuyuki Sakagabara, got all the latest updates on what is happening in the future for Horizon and how the new shows and all that good stuff. Please check it out. Bron Horizon is one of my favorite things to do. So aside from this show, of course, over on myMNews.com, youtube.com/Drake Riggs. You know where to find it. It's also on Spotify now. The audio versions, Japanese and audio, Japanese and English audio. But and then all the UFC 268 fight coverage for SCMP. You can see that too if you want to go back and look at it. And then we'll be at 266. That's the next show I'll be at. God damn, I'm all over the place, you guys. I told you, my body clock's off, messed up right now. I'm on East Coast time still, so it's like 1 o'clock for me in my brain, but that's okay. It's nothing new, but it's just been exhausting traveling. So I'll be home until 269 fight week. So back in Vegas for then, but it's been a wild stretch. Good to be back. Good to be here with you guys. Boy, oh boy. Yes, and as Ghost says, you guys need to look up the Tokyo Flood Tunnels for Broad Horizon. Yes, Ghost making a slight appearance or a cameo, I guess you could say, chiming in at the end for our community questions on Broad Horizon episode 10. Wouldn't have it any other way. So I think we can leave it there. I'm not going to do the rundown like Steve does. Sorry, guys. I'm not going to make you feel as special as you truly are. But I will say thank you oh so much to all of you. Of course, it means the world that you would tune in to listen to us talk our nonsense and what have you. So appreciate it. Without you, there is no us. I will say that line from him. So until next time, you guys stay safe, stay sane. I'll take that line from him as well. And we will see you next week back on our regular Monday time as we get ready for Horizon 32, which has the ladies in the main event there. So until then, everybody, stay safe, stay sane, and peace out.